So this video is for the evens on the review. So starting with number 2, but starting with the directions, graph it, find the vertex, axis of symmetry, and range for each graph. Okay, 1 through 4 are all in vertex form, so that's where it's easy to just look and figure out the transformations. Let's see, x plus 2, which way does that mean it goes? Left 2, and then plus 4 would be up 4. And while I'm looking at it, it's also flipped. So we'll use that in a minute. So left 2, up 4. And oh, this is one where the scale is a little bit weird, so I need to be careful about the left 4 up, the left 2 up 4 thing. Make sure I land at the right spot. Left 2 up 4. Normally, I'm just kind of thinking back and forth. Do I want to graph it first? Do I want to state the information first? So vertex is at -2, 4. Axis of symmetry. You don't have to draw the axis of symmetry, but if it helps you to see what's going on, there's nothing wrong with the axis of symmetry. I'm going to take points off if you tell me the axis of symmetry is -2. What do I need to say is the axis of symmetry? X equals -2. -2 is just a number. X equals -2. That's a line that is also my axis of symmetry. Okay, vertex, axis of symmetry, range. I guess I could do range because I know it's going down. Let's go ahead and do the 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. The only thing I have to do is to multiply those by -1. I'm not really going to show that. I'm just going to do that on the graph. Over 1, down 1. Again, be careful with the scale on this one. Over 2, down 4. And there's my parabola. Before I forget, the range. The range of the ones going down are the tricky ones, because some people want to say the range goes from 4 to -infinity. It's like, well, I see what you're looking at, but you always have to give the smaller number first. So -infinity up to 4. You've got to give it in that order. All right, let's go back and make sure we answered everything. Graph, got it. Vertex, yes. Axis, and range. And then it's also helpful to go back and check and make sure you did all the things you said you would do. Left 2, up 4, and it's flipped. So yes, we're good on that one. Number 4. Got a 1/2 out front. Don't worry about that in a minute. It's another left 2, up 4 problem. I don't know, that seems kind of weird. It's the same vertex, -2, 4 is that last one. And again with the scale that's kind of weird, so be careful. Axis of symmetry always goes through the vertex. So x equals -2. And then to graph it, what do I do with that 1/2? How do I use that 1/2? What does that get multiplied to? The y values, so that'll stretch it out. So 1/2 to 4.5 if we even get there. So over 1, up 1/2 on either side. Again with the scale, be careful. Over 2, up 2. And over 3, up 4.5. I guess I could do that. 1, 2, 3, 4.5. That's a little bit off the page. So it's a little bit wider parabola, but that's because it's been squished by the 1/2. Again, check in directions, make sure I got everything. Graph it, vertex, axis, range. You do the range. This one starts at 4 and goes up, so 4 to infinity. All right, in my mind, those are the easy ones to graph because you can pick off the vertex pretty easily. On 5 through 8, they're not in the, I don't want to say the right form, they're in a different form, a form that we don't really like, because you can't just look at that and know which way to go. Instead, you've got to remember how to find the x-coordinate of the vertex. Remember the formula for that? X-coordinate for the vertex? Negative b over 2a. If you remember that much, you can probably figure out the rest, but that's the thing you've got to memorize is the negative b over 2a to get you started. So, negative b over 2a. I guess this one may be a little bit weird because c is 0, but c is 2, so negative 2 over 2 times a half will just be negative 2. So that's the x-coordinate of my vertex, which also means it's the axis of symmetry. How do I find the y-coordinate of my vertex? Just plug it in. Y equals 1/2 negative 2 squared plus 2 times negative 2. Oh, this is fun, but surely we figured this out by now. Am I squaring the 2? Am I squaring negative 2? Am I squaring 1/2 times negative 2? What am I squaring? Negative 2. That gets me 4. Half of 4 is 2. And 2 minus 4 is negative 2. So, negative 2, negative 2. Vertex. I drew my axis of symmetry. I haven't written down what it is yet. Y-intercept, x-intercept. Let's graph. And remember, sometimes by graphing, you sort of accidentally run into your intercepts. So normally this would be a 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9 graph. But it's another one with a half out there. So let's see what happens when we go over 1 up a half, over 2 up 2. Oh, well that's what we like, because we just stumbled into both x-intercepts and the y-intercept. So the x-intercepts, remember, we want to list them as points. Negative 4, 0, and 0, 0. And then my y-intercept is also 0, 0, but it asked for it, so we'll list it again. Okay. Again, always a good idea to check your directions and make sure you answered things, especially on problems where they ask 4 or 5 different things. Graphed it, yes. Vertex, axis of symmetry, y-intercept, x-intercept. Oh, still didn't do the range. So range would be negative 2 to infinity. We kind of got lucky on this one, is that we stumbled into our intercepts. If you don't stumble into the y-intercept, how do you find the y-intercept? Do you remember? It is it is c, but a better way to say that is set x equal to 0. And for y-intercepts, you set for x-intercepts, you set y equal to 0, which, yeah, usually if it factors, that helps. So sometimes you don't, if you graph it neatly, you stumble into those and don't have to worry about them. Number 8, all the same things. Negative b over 2a. That's the big thing. Once you get started with that, the rest you can figure out. But you've got to remember that formula to get started. So negative 2 over 2 times negative 1 would be 1. So my vertex is at 1 comma something, which means my axis of symmetry is x equals 1. So let's plug in 1. Oh, another squaring problem. This one is maybe tricky the way I wrote it. I didn't write it wrong. Am I squaring 1 or am I squaring negative 1? 1. And then I'll put the negative on. So this is negative 1 plus 2 plus 3 would be 4. So 1, 4 is my vertex. Now I'm ready to start graphing. I can use the 1, 1, 2, 4. What do I need to be careful about this one though? It's negative. So I'm not going to take the time to like multiply all of them by negative 1. I'm just going to know that it's flipped. So over 1, down 1. Over 1, down 1. Over 2, down 4. It's another one where the scaling is by a half. And once again, I stumbled into all of the nice intercepts. So my x-intercepts are negative 1, 0, and 3, 0. And my y-intercept, from the graph, it's 3, 0, 3. You were right that C is also always the y-intercept. So we could have gotten that from the equation or from the picture either way. And once again, I almost forgot to do the range. Negative infinity up to 4. Again, they're not hard, but you do have to know that negative b over 2a to get started. After you get that, you can kind of just figure everything else out. Number 10. Solve each equation. Exact answers, simplified radical form. It did not prescribe a method for number 10. So, how would you like to solve number 10? Got options. We could use complete the square. We could use factoring. I don't want to use either one of those. I could use the quadratic formula, except we haven't even learned that yet. That's on Friday. I mean, it didn't specify, so if you use the quadratic formula, you would be okay. You get the right answer. That'd be fine. If there's only an x squared term in there, then I can use the square root method, and this will be pretty easy. So I'm going to isolate the x squared, and then just square root both sides. So if I add 10 to both sides, divide both sides by 3. It's going to be kind of an ugly thing to take the square root of, but that's all right. So x equals plus or minus. The negative comes out as an I, and now I've got root 7 over root 3. Not wrong, but not okay, right? Like, what do I need to do to fix that? Let's multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3. So plus or minus I root 21 all over 3. Ooh, a lot of pieces to that. First period commentary felt like this test isn't hard. It's just like no one piece of it is hard. It's difficult because we cover a lot of things, and a lot of the problems have a lot of little steps. None of the little steps are hard. It's just you got to remember all the little steps. Number 12. Okay, 12 is tricky because it's trying to bait you into multiplying those. You're like, oh, they're both in the house. I can multiply. Kind of. You better take care of the exponent thing first, which means take that I out. So I root 50, I root 4. So let's see, that would be, you know what, now we could simplify these. 5I root 2. Oh, that one's just 2I, that's nice. Yeah, that's another example of no little step of this problem is hard, there's just a whole bunch of little steps. 5 times 2 is 10. I times I is I squared. Root 2. That's still not an acceptable final answer. What's left to change? That I squared is negative 1, so negative 10 root 2. Again, I don't think it's difficult, but man, that felt like 6 or 8 little steps in there. 14's got an I in the bottom, so let's multiply top and bottom by I. Oops. I in the top, I squared in the bottom, but I squared is negative 1. I think I've said this before. If you leave negative 1 in the bottom, I'm going to take off because that just looks bad. Make that negative I. Minus 1 point for this answer. All right, what do we do on number 16? Distribute or FOIL, however you want to phrase that. So negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. Minus 24i. Minus 36i. Oh, and then we're going to get an I squared, so be careful. First one, I'm not going to skip this step. Eventually I might, but first time through, plus 24i squared, which does mean minus 24. 36 minus 24 is 12, minus 60i. Show some work on those. Not because I care, but because I don't want you to mess them up. I mean, I do care that you do get them right. Showing more steps will help you get them right. Don't try to jump all the way to there. Some of you probably could, but why risk it? Like, take your time and show your work. 18. Ooh, one of those weird I problems. I to the 27th. So I would like a multiple of 4 that's a little less than 27. So what's a multiple of 4 short of 27? 24. And then how many does that leave? 3. So I to the 24th is 1. That's why we picked that one. I cubed. Let's see. It's I1, but the 2 middle ones are negative. So yes, that would be negative I. So negative 2i. So the pattern thing combined with the multiple of 4. Number 20. How would you like to fix number 20? Multiply by the conjugate. So 3 plus 9i, top and bottom. That should make the I stuff go away in the bottom. Top's going to get uglier, but that's all right. It doesn't matter which one you do first. I think I'm going to do the bottom one first just to convince myself that the I's have gone away and I'm doing this problem right. So 9 plus 27i minus 27i. So yes, I feel good now. And then here we go with how comfortable are you with skipping steps. What's negative 9i times 9i? Plus 81. Yeah, because it's minus 81i squared, which becomes plus 81. So again, if you need to write minus 81i squared, that's fine. If you can make the leap to plus 81, also okay. The main thing is the middle terms canceled out. So I've got just 90 in the bottom. Maybe that'll reduce, maybe not. Let's see, 8 times 3 is 24, plus 72i, plus 15i. Oh, here we go with our I squared again. 5i times 9i, 45i squared, which means minus 45. 24 minus 45 would be negative 21 plus, oh that's lovely, 87i all over 90. Does that reduce by anything? just the 87 there. It's like 21 and 90 definitely can reduce by 3. Is 87 divisible by 3? I got a few no's and a few yeses. Well, it's only 3 away from 90, so if 90 is divisible by 3, then 87 is divisible by 3. Also, the divisibility trick, you remember that? If you add the numbers, and if the sum is divisible by 3, then the number is divisible by 3. Does that ring any bells? 8 plus 7 is 15, and 15 is divisible by 3. Therefore, 87 is divisible by 3. Maybe you didn't learn that. 87 divisible by 3. Oh, it goes into 90 30 times. So it goes into 87 one less time. So 29i over 30. Yeah, that would be one where people are going to lose a point or two because they left the 87. Oh, 22 is a frequently missed problem. What am I needing to be careful about on 22? The negative. So let's distribute the negative. And then collect like terms. This is not a multiplication problem. That's where people get messed up. They think, oh, I'll FOIL that because I've been doing a lot of FOILing. No, that's a minus sign, so don't FOIL, subtract. 4 minus 5 is negative 1. Negative I minus 5i is negative 6i. And that's all it is. So it's like an easy one, but some people will FOIL that and then get all messed up. Let's see. I think that's a minus sign. Although that's a terrible minus sign. All the other minus signs are longer. No, they're not all longer. I'm going to interpret that as a minus sign. So negative 6i minus 12 plus 15i minus 4 plus 7i. So really not, I guess there is multiplication. You've got to distribute that negative 3. After that, like terms. So negative 16. Negative 6 plus 15 is 9, plus 7 is 16. So there's my patriotic answer for that problem. Solve by factoring for 26. Solve. So what's my answer going to look like? It's going to be x equals. In fact, I should probably get 2x equals because it's x squared. So I do want to factor, but I won't be done until I have x equals something. X squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. So x minus 6 and x minus 1. That's the factored part. The solved part would be x equals 6 and x equals 1. Again, make sure you do what the question is asked. Don't stop short. '28 would be a little bit harder because of the 7 out there. Although, it's got to be 1 and 7. It's the only options for that. 7R and R. Then I'm switching to pencil here because I don't know what I'm going to do to get 44 out of the middle. Let's see. They may be different signs. And my options are 1 and 35, or 5 and 7. I'm pretty sure I don't want 35 across from the 7, right? Because that would be 35 times 7 is really big. So I'm going to start with the 5 and the 7. And if I can think ahead a little bit, if I put the 7 there, that gets me 49. And 49 minus 5. Well, if I get the signs right, I can make this work. So I want negative 49 and positive 5. Negative 49R plus 5R Yes, that would get me what I want. Factoring. And then, I didn't do it on the last one, so I'll do it on this one. The step that most of you skip, and maybe rightly so. Instead of e equal to 0. So r is negative 5/7 and r is 7. That one's going to be missed by some just because there's still people who can't factor. Ooh, 30. I got to move some things around here. So move the 3n squared over. Move the 6 over. Oh, that's weird, I guess. Good, I guess. 6's go away. Some people miss this because they don't know how to factor that. What could I factor out of that? 2n. So 5n plus 6 equals 0. And this is where it might be helpful to take the time to write out the step of setting each factor equal to 0 so that you don't lose that front solution there. N equals 0 and n equals negative 6/5. We haven't done this much. I have not done it hardly at all, but if I wanted to verify or check that those answers were right, what could I do? Plug them in. Plugging in 0 would be easy. I'd get negative 6 equals negative 6. So I feel good about 0. Plugging in negative 6/5 would be a pain because you'd have to square it and multiply by 7. And it'd be a mess, but it should work. Just put a check on it like I actually checked it. 32. 5n squared minus 31n plus 6 equals 0. Uh-oh, another one where I'm going to have to factor. Let's see, it's got to be 5n and n. But I've got options for 6. 1 and 6, 2 and 3. And somebody's going to be across from the 5. This time I want a big number there. So usually I'm avoiding the big numbers, but this time I want a big number there in the middle. So what should I put across from 5? Let's put the 6 there. That'll get me to 30. And 1 will make 31 if they're both negative. Negative 1 times negative 6 gets me the positive 6. And negative 30n minus 1n gets me to the negative 31n. So n is 1/5 and n equals 6. And again, if you had extra time and you're wanting to push for 100, then you plug them in and make sure they're right. 6 wouldn't be too bad to check. 1/5 would be kind of annoying to check.
How come you added the 6
Uh-oh.
on 31? On 30. How come you added the 6 equals 0?
Back to number 30. I wanted to get this 6 to the other side. Right, to set it equal to 0. So plus 6 to cancel it out, which also canceled it out over there. Does that answer your question? All right, last topic, completing the square. Get it set up, do the HSA, and then do the square root. And again, even within that, setup might have a couple steps. HSA has a few steps. Square rooting has a couple steps. K squared minus 12k equals 12. All right, what does HSA stand for? Half it squared, add it. Half of what? Half of b. And then square that, we get 36. And then add 36 to both sides. That's the heart of the method right there, is that half it, square it, add it. Usually if you can remember that, you can figure out the rest. All right, so we'll factor the left, but it's not like you have to sit there and figure out what multiplies to 36 and adds to negative 12, because it's always whatever b over 2 is. And we can square root both sides. Don't forget the plus or minus. 48, that can be split up. 48 is 16 times 3, 4 root 3, and then move the 6 over. 6 plus or minus 4 root 3. Good old completing the square. Completing the square is in small part what the entire unit is in large part, and that is, again, there's nothing like difficult about completing the square. No one step is really that hard. It's just a whole lot of steps, a whole lot of pieces to put together. And again, that goes for the whole unit. No one problem is really all that difficult. It's just a lot of things going on. Last one. 4x squared minus 8x, and then I'll move that 11 to the other side. 15. Uh-oh, I don't like where this is going. What do I need to do next? I can't do half of b yet because I've got to do the setup part. I've got to have a equal 1, and then I can worry about half it, square it, add it. So let's divide everybody by 4, which is fine on the left-hand side. Right-hand side's kind of annoying, but oh well. Now I can do half it, square it, add it. So half of b is negative 1. What do I get when I square negative 1? 1. So we'll add 1 to both sides. X minus 1 squared equals 19 fourths. Yeah, so this would be 4 fourths. So 19 fourths. Not great, but oh well. Square root both sides. Oh, not terrible, because the bottom has a square root, so I don't have to worry about fixing a denominator there. I can take the square root of 4. X equals 1 plus or minus root 19 over 2. Again, this test, I don't know whether to be worried or confident. Like, I feel like you know all the things, it's just a lot of things. And you know all the steps, there's nothing crazy, it's just a lot of steps and a lot of problems. Let me remind you, while the video is still rolling, it'll be up there for people who watch, of what to do Wednesday or Thursday if you're a block day person. So it's the last 4 worksheets in the packet. Put this up yesterday, so make sure those are ready to go on Wednesday when you roll in, and you're not having to flip through everything and find them and then realize you didn't do everything. So hopefully have those ready to go. That way we can get started right away. I think I said this earlier, the test is 20 questions. It's very much like the review, I would say, except for the last few, which are multiple choice and a little bit trickier. It'll test your understanding more than just like straightforward doing a problem. And so I would watch the video, if you haven't already, of the challenge problems.